Hello and welcome to another episode of Shampoo and Booze. This is episode number 13 at shampooandbooze.com.
Well, hello everybody.
Hello, we are sitting inside of a blizzard.
Yeah, so we're in the mid-Atlantic, so we are in the middle of that big snow.
And it's fun.
Yeah, so I think we're going to get about 2 feet of snow, which I guess it's when I read about it, people in the Midwest and the Dakotas, I mean, they're getting 4-6 feet of snow. I don't know how they do it, but here in this area, it definitely stops everything.
Yeah, I think the infrastructure is different, and there are a lot more people on the East Coast. I was looking at the population of South Dakota. It's like 800,000 people.
In the whole state?
In the entire state.
Oh my God.
So compared to the Northeast, which is super dense,
right.
The infrastructure just grinds to a halt.
And plus they're accustomed to it.
Yeah.
So, but what that has to do with Airbnb, with our business, is that we had a booking for the weekend, and the people who had rented were real good. They actually started emailing us earlier in the week because they saw what the snow was going to be like. And so instead of canceling, we were able to convince them just to switch it to a weekend in February.
Which was great.
And they did.
Because it seemed like they were flexible. They just wanted a weekend getaway. Right. So obviously this is not the weekend to get away. Right. That being said.
And I will say, just because we didn't really say it at the beginning, this is a podcast about our Airbnb business, our rental business. Not specifically Airbnb, but that's one we had used. But, the fact that we have these rentals that we rent on online. And that's really kind of what we're talking about, and this is basically one of our jobs. I mean, we don't have jobs.
Yeah.
This is something we're trying to build so we don't have to work for other people. And we hope that there are other people like us who might be trying to do that, like live the alternative lifestyle,
Yeah.
So with the snowstorm, actually on Friday night, right before the snow came, or it was Thursday night, we had a guy Instabook our place.
I was actually shocked because he was in our state.
Right.
It's not like he was coming from somewhere where it wasn't going to snow.
He was about 3 hours away, and and that's something we turned on Airbnb is the Instabook, where people can book, and we have to be very open so people can book 24 hours.
Yeah.
It's before.
I have a question because you're the one that set that up. Can you change how far in advance?
People, it can be 3 days, a week, but because we live close by,
it's fine.
If it's available, I would love for someone to come and book it.
Exactly.
And this is all the news is saying that it's going to be historic snowfall, 2 feet, power could be out.
And they're telling people basically, do not drive, do not leave your house.
Right. But, I'm like, wow, that's cool. We could maybe get a renter. But then we were like, but once it starts snowing, we cannot help this person at all.
They can't leave, essentially.
They can't leave. And then if the power goes out, they're going to be stranded.
Well, the thing is, for us, we can talk about how we told this to them. You told this to them. Without power, you have no running water because the pump doesn't work.
Right.
You have no heat.
Right.
You have no ability to cook any food.
Right.
You have no lights or internet or phone.
And plus, it's in a rural area, so they would be, 5 miles from a town.
Right.
And, and those roads out there would be the last to get plowed. So I actually called the guy, and he was like an Army guy. This is an Army base where he lives, so he's a military dude, and he was saying him and 4 people all wanted to come out and go snowshoeing,
skiing, which would have been perfect for this weather,
But then he said, he had a kid, so...
He had a 7-year-old and a dog coming.
So I think he understood. He's probably in his mid-20s if he's in the military, and he finally kind of thought about it again and said, why don't we cancel? So actually, what's interesting with Airbnb is it's good to see this.
Yeah.
So we could not cancel because if it's 24 hours before the person comes, Airbnb doesn't want a host to be able to cancel without Airbnb getting involved. And as someone that rents on Airbnb, I get that. Like, that's kind of cool because we know how bummed we would be if we showed up and we're like, the day is before,
right,
and our reservation's canceled. So when I called, the customer rep said, well, someone would get back to me. Like, it goes up to a manager, case manager.
Case manager, yep.
In the meantime, I messaged the guy and said, why don't you try and cancel on your end? Maybe it's easier. And it was. He could cancel right away, and then we just refunded any fees.
Right. You have the ability, like, they ask you to refund the fees, basically, if it's a mutually decided upon cancellation.
Well, that's just because on Airbnb, again, you can choose if you want a strict cancellation policy, a moderate, or very open. So you can have it where people can cancel the day it's before and there's no fee. Ours is just strict, which means that if they cancel, I think a couple weeks or a month it's before, we still get to keep some of that cash.
And the reason for that is because you're saying, we might not be able to book this again.
Exactly.
So you're covering us for not being able to book. And, that's true for hotels, too. If you cancel it within a certain amount of time, they're like, we're keeping your,
So it's a pretty easy process. Airbnb did call. At first they're very suspicious because they don't like when host cancels that soon. But then they understood the circumstances.
Well, we said where we were. We said, look, there's a huge storm bearing down on
us. I made sure, even though I'd been talking to him on the telephone, I made sure to write a message on Airbnb that kind of summarized what we had agreed upon, knowing that the Airbnb case manager would be reading those messages and kind of catch up. And so they actually then refunded him their fees as well.
Right.
And Airbnb just sent like a form, thank you email.
Right.
Thank you for being so nice to your hosts. You're the reason
your
why.
Your guests.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is I don't know if we've ever called Airbnb. Have you called them before? It felt, because you handed the phone to me, you're like, just explain it to them. And it felt exactly like when I call eBay.
Right.
Like, it felt like I was doing the exact same thing. Like, you explain the situation, you say you want to help your customer, and they're like, okay, we're going to, it felt exactly the same.
And plus, we're talking about eBay because that's our other
other business.
Like, for those of you who might be new to who we are, we have an eBay business where we sell things on the internet, stuff we scavenge out in the world, and then we're using these profits to invest in rental properties for Airbnb. So again, these two things are bulwark against having to actually get real jobs.
Yeah, exactly.
So anyway, the good news is the snow will go away. We'll go back to business. I'm happy that we've talked about where we live. So this is our first year renting on Airbnb. We assumed January and February would be dead.
Right.
Because where we live, it's wintertime. People don't really come to our area. But the good thing is January, we did good. We made about $1,500.
That's amazing, actually.
And again, we need to make about $1,200 to cover our mortgage and expenses. And in February, we're going to make about the same amount too.
Right, which is so helpful.
Which is good.
Yeah.
That's great. And we're already starting to get spring rentals and summertime rentals.
Yeah, so people start early because they're, trying to figure out spring break and summertime. They know when the kids get out of school and stuff like that. So that's great when those start coming in because you're like, okay, we're not crazy.
And we've started getting them on both Airbnb and HomeAway or VRBO, the two places where we have our place up. So that's great. I love when people plan ahead, and a lot of them are people planning for a wedding. They're coming here to go to a wedding.
Like a friend or a family's
because
wedding.
We live in like a big wedding area, and so they're just planning ahead. Which
is great, because people, we've never planned a wedding, so we don't know, but people, like I talked to a friend of mine who is a wedding planner, and she's like, oh yeah, people totally know when they're going to do it like a year out.
Right.
Or whatever. So you're like, whoa, okay.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And that is the nice thing about having this rental business is that, by the time, like, May comes around, we should have, I hope, at least half of all of our nights already booked.
Yeah.
People are booking out ahead of time. Yep. So we kind of know how much income we're going to be making, like things are already kind of like booked in the
So,
bag.
And the other great thing is, especially about Airbnb, when there are gaps in the calendar, people tend to fill them in themselves. Like, they almost will be like, okay, we have a weekend in July, a couple in the city. Let's just see which weekend this house is available. I noticed that is something that people do on Airbnb.
Right.
They're flexible. They see what's available, and they'll book it. And that happened over the summer a lot, which is great.
One thing we dealt with this past year, which was our first year doing this, was that we were noticing that people would book on a Friday and Saturday.
Right.
And kind of not kill the week, but then you basically take away the two best nights.
Right.
And so, our thing is, well, do we make them book at least 3 nights or more?
For the summer,
Do we make them book a whole week?
Right.
But we found, though, in the busy season, that even though the weekend would go away, people would still be able to plan their week. They're like, well, we'll just take Monday through a Thursday. It's cheaper anyway.
Right, exactly.
And we're making the weekend more expensive this year. So if people only want 2 nights, they're going to
pay for it. Yeah, exactly. So we had been talking about this. We talk about this all the time, and we have several other friends who do rentals, and they charge a cleaning fee. And we decided to charge a cleaning fee on HomeAway.
Yeah.
Because Anna actually said, it's expected on a place like HomeAway to be charged a cleaning fee.
Right.
So we were like, all right, let's try it. But we haven't had any bookings after that.
Yeah, so we do our own, it's cleaning. So, that's, I know people always say you got to pay for it yourself and you have to don't make your time be free. But essentially it's not a cost to us other than our time.
Yeah.
So we're doing an experiment. We'll have no cleaning fee on Airbnb, but we'll have a cleaning fee on VRBO.
Yeah.
So we'll see if that slows people down or,
I don't know. But the other thing, too, is with HomeAway that I find people book for longer amounts of time on HomeAway because they're doing,
family vacations.
A vacation, so it's like a week, 4 nights,
Right.
So on Airbnb, like I said, it's last-minute weekender type deal, so it's different.
I think it's just one of those things where we have to remember that we are not our own target market. Like our customers are not us.
Yeah.
Like the way we do it is we would never rent an Airbnb that charged $50 or more for
cleaning
because I'm already paying you. It should be like a hotel. I'm already paying you. I'm only staying 2 nights. There's only 2 of us. Why are you charging me $50? I don't care if you have to pay somebody. That's part of your cost, not mine. But that's us. I know there are other people who are like, well, that's just part of the deal.
Yeah, that's just part of it.
I'm kind of a luxury guy, so I want all this stuff. I get that. So it's part of us trying to see a different way of how it's done.
Yeah, so we're going to try that and see what happens.
The other interesting thing is on the difference between Airbnb and HomeAway or VRBO is that, Airbnb, someone books, they have to pay up front everything, and Airbnb holds that its money, and then we don't get paid till they're in the house for, I think, 24 hours. Which makes sense. HomeAway, the interesting thing for them is they work through a third-party processor, financial processor, and we actually got accepted to their program where as soon as someone books, we get the money right away.
Yeah.
So we actually got paid already for people that are staying in June.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
And that's kind of nice because it means that we get a chunk of change that we can use to renovate this other house, or we have this money. But it's something that, we need to make sure we're using this money very carefully because come June, we're not going to get that money because it's already been paid.
And so what happens if someone cancels? Well, we have a strict cancellation policy there, too.
Right. But they could get some of their money back if they canceled, it's within a month.
Right.
After a month. I guess they would pull money out of our account.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's it's kind of an interesting. We have to start thinking again, continue thinking like business people where, you got to start thinking about cash flow and like how much money we're actually going to get at the time of booking.
Exactly.
While it's kind of quiet, it's a winter time. We're still thinking of its renovation of our second rental.
Yes.
That we just bought. And something I did was, I actually went down to North Carolina. I did a 10-hour round-trip drive
it was crazy.
to go get some flooring that I found on Craigslist. Some really nice flooring.
So this is something we've done for both of our houses. And for some reason, it seems like the type of flooring and wood that we always want is down in North Carolina. It seems to be the case.
I think just because North Carolina was at one point an industrial place, kind of like what it's Massachusetts was.
Yeah.
But things like the Northeast.
Yeah.
I think those kind of old houses and the old factories, I think those were all torn down or redone back in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
And those have all been plundered.
Yeah.
I think North Carolina is one of those states where it's kind of behind the Northeast, and suddenly people are finding tobacco barns and old
That's
houses.
Happened a lot. Yeah. Well, I guess we found some wood in Virginia.
Some, yeah.
But it's been North Carolina a bunch of times.
And so for us, we love wood.
Yeah.
And we love real wood. I mean, in the sense of the heartwood pine
old
flooring.
Wood. Yeah.
And so we learned that if we troll on Craigslist, I just have an alert anytime someone types in heartwood pine, I get an alert. And you'll have guys that will go, they're this guy was like, I bought 400 square feet of heartwood pine from a woman who tore down her house. I don't need it anymore. I just want it gone.
Yeah.
I'll sell it to you for $350.
It was $350.
I mean, you couldn't get, for 400 square feet, you couldn't get even engineered wood at Lowe's for that kind
I don't
of cost.
think so.
So it's really beautiful. It's got all the dings and damage that...
There are a bunch of cracks, too.
that we love, but we'll be able to get it down.
So we were even thinking that we would not use it on a floor, but we would use it on a ceiling.
Right.
So we're still kind of debating that because it would look great on the loft floor up there, too, also.
Right. But these are the kind of things where we kind of mix our love of scavenging, which we're getting really cool items for cheap because this country is just bleeding, trash. And we mix that with our love of making places really look like $1 million. Once we get this wood in there, get it sanded and polished and finished, I mean, it looks like $1 million.
Yeah, it looks amazing.
And it will last. It's not the kind where it looks good for 10 years and then it starts to show its age and it doesn't wear very well.
I think that's also part of how we do renovations too, because it all has to make sense with the materials. We were thinking, look, we think it would be cool to have wood on this certain part of the ceiling. And it's can we find that? Do we already have it? Do we need to buy it? You kind of can take time when you're scavenging to find, what makes sense,
Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing. I know there are people that are much more into real estate than we are. They're really real investors. They're buying houses every month.
Yeah.
They're buying and fixing up and getting on the market within a month,
That's very different than what we're doing.
They're really going for it. And it's a different model and it works for them and that's cool. We're kind of different in the sense of we bought this house a month ago. We're not going to get done with it for at least 6 months.
I mean,
it could be longer. Yeah. I don't know. But part of that for us is we try and make that into a benefit. Instead of thinking of it of every month it's not on the market, we're losing its money.
Right.
We're thinking of it as if we have the time, let's really think about how we want to design this and get it finished.
Yeah.
And once it's finished, it's going to be good for 50 years.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to look beautiful.
Yeah. All you do is maintenance. You don't do a redo.
And the other thing is too, it gives us time to find quality items for cheap,
exactly.
Instead of just we got to get this done next week. Let's go to Home Depot and just buy this like this kit right here.
Yeah, exactly.
And here's $20,000. And
like to me, that's not fun. That's not fun at all. Yeah. Like that sounds boring. I wouldn't want to like have bought a house to do that.
Yeah,
it's faster.
Right. Again, it does work. It's a model that seems to work for people. That's just not our model.
Right.
And so, to me, with both houses we've done, I find that because it takes time, we have time to see how things will come together too.
Yeah.
Like, we still aren't really certain. I could not write on a piece of paper exactly how this new rental is going to end up.
Right.
Because we're still trying to figure out, like, do we expand this bathroom?
Yeah.
Do we redo the stairwell? Do we put in a window in this wall? I mean, these are all ideas we're having, but as it progresses,
you see what makes sense.
We'll actually see what's doable.
Yeah, like the other day we were like, let's pull out the hot water heater and we'll do on-demand heat. Okay, so we talked to our plumber and he's like, well, on-demand hot water.
Right.
He's like, you really have to get some crazy electrical in here to do that. So that's like a whole other thing. And we're like, we still haven't been like yes or no, but we're like, okay, it's good to hear that from an expert. Consult the experts and then go back and decide what makes sense.
Like we're still talking about, should we expand? Like right now, it's got a really tiny. It's like a cabin bathroom. Like it's tiny.
It's small, yeah.
And we could expand its bathroom, take some room from the kitchen or from the living room, like put in another 30 square feet. And, But then the plumber's like, but all your plumbing's in the poured concrete floor. Yeah. You may have to either do a step up, where all the pipes are like in a platform, or we have to jackhammer into the foundation and redo. So we're like,
oh,
is that worth it?
Should we even do that, or should we just make the bathroom super nice and the same layout that it is?
So it's unclear.
Yeah,
and so, but that's why the timing means we have the time to think about it.
Right. Well, and what you do is, like we were saying, you consult people who know what they're talking about, and you decide from there.
Right.
You could say, we do want to move the pipes. We think it would be much better. We're willing to spend the money, or no.
Because I would love to know that people who do redo houses very quickly, if they ever make errors, if it's mistakes that they make because they have to make a decision very quickly, and there's a lot of moving pieces. Like they're like, oh, I shouldn't have put that plumbing there, or I should have redone the electric when I had time, but we had to hurry up and put the kitchen in.
Like my mom just moved into a condo like that.
Right.
They had some like crazy sprinkler system that the guy who built it had to put in, so he like cut corners on everything else.
She moved into a new construction
condo, like townhouse type thing, and she's like opening up walls, being like, I thought this wall had pipes in it. It's empty. Wow. Like I could expand this bathroom so much bigger now. It's just it's funny because it's like they were just like, I just build a box there, just finish it. So it's things like that where, I think people do that all the time.
I mean, like I've been talking to a buddy online who, he's going more into like he's a full-time job, but he wants to invest in real estate, and he's going the route of buying these foreclosures or these properties on auction where they could be anywhere in the country, and he's buying houses for like $12,000 and then putting in $15,000 and then renting for $600 a month, and he actually doesn't do any of the work, and he has a property management company deal with it. I mean, and then what he says is, and the way I'll do it is, I'm going to get 10 of these, like I might not make too much money on each one,
but it adds up.
But then you get a bunch of them, and and that's just a different way to do it. I think for us, the way I was thinking about it was, so right now we're like in our prime, like this is our prime age.
Yeah,
we're active, we have experience, we're healthy. I mean, for me, now's the time to build beautiful things that will last.
Right.
It's like when I'm like in my 60s, I'm not sure if I want to work so hard and drive to North Carolina and spend 6 months or more redoing a house, you know.
Yeah.
I think for us, like and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, our idea is like we'll have several fancy properties.
I hope so, yeah.
Versus a bunch of cheap long-term ones.
Right, so, I mean, right, like you're saying about the person who wants like 10 of the dumpy rentals, basically. And we see people around here do that. I think the other problem with us is the long-term rental market in our area is very low. Like, we live in a rural area. We're not in DC.
Right, but I mean, we could, if we wanted to, be like these other people and be buying properties in urban or suburban markets. Like, I mean, there's no reason why we have to actually be here. Be handling things.
Yeah. No, but I hear you. It's like when I'm going to be like, in quotes, retirement age or whatever, do you want like a bunch of like houses that were done in a quick flip to rent for, you know, $400 a month or something?
Right. Like, I mean, when I'm in my 60s, do I want a bunch of dumpy rentals that are falling apart?
Right.
Because if you think 20 years ahead,
right,
they're nice now, but in 20 years,
they got to get redone.
Kind of a Home Depot job is going to start falling apart. Just because of that
wear and tear, especially with a long-term rental.
So do I want to be having to redo them again?
Right.
Or I think for us, the idea is, you know, have a handful. I say a handful.
A handful. How many fit in your hand?
Several, you know, premier properties that were done well with like metal roofs and brick and really nice wood and, you know, done plumbing and, you know, just where when I'm at 60, they're still nice. Yeah. Like, I just have to, like, paint them, you know?
Exactly.
To me, that's what I want to be dealing with when I'm older.
Right.
You know?
And also, like, for us, that's just more interesting. I mean, it really comes down to that. It's like, what's more interesting? I mean, I've had the idea of, like, oh, it'd be cool to flip a house. But then I'm like, I like quality materials too much to, like, think that that's going to pay off.
I mean, okay, here's like the cheese mode here. I feel it's cheesy, but I mean, it's our life. So we watch this show called Hotel Impossible.
It's a great show. It's on the Travel Channel.
I mean, you know, I'm like everyone else. Reality shows is whatever. But this guy,
Anthony Melchiori,
he's like the real deal.
Yeah, he's serious.
He's like a hotel consultant guy.
Yeah.
And I think he's a genuine guy. And, you know, the whole show is he goes, people call him, say, please help me. It's with this small hotel I have or inn or, you know, cabin rental and help me because I'm having problems.
Right.
And what it all comes down to, I mean, his advice is the same every time. You have to invest in infrastructure.
Right.
And you have to make this place clean and stylish. Like,
it's so simple. Every show, he says the same thing.
He says it again and again, you know, and they'll bring in designers and they'll redo a room just to show people instead of like having this like 80s bedspread.
Polyester, maroon,
where it feels like a Motel 6. Just invest in like actual quality.
Yeah.
And then the place sells itself.
Yeah.
And I think for us, that's what it's all about. There's like invest to where it's so nice that
you don't even have to say anything.
That then everything's so easy.
Yeah.
I mean, like our current rental, we put a lot of money into it. We put a lot of time into it. But now we walk people in, and I don't really have to sell the place. I don't have to say a lot of stuff.
I mean, you're just like, here's the kitchen.
Right. Like, I don't have to say, oh, sorry about this. Or
no, never.
Or, you know, it's a really nice view. I'm sorry about, you know, like it's kind of junky here, but it's really nice here, you know.
Now,
like
if we had to say that, there would be a problem.
Yeah.
But like, so here's an example. So there was an episode where this one owner had this place for like 20 years, something like that.
He was in Woodstock.
He was in Woodstock, New York, home of Woodstock. And he had run his cabin. They were cabins. They were like little cabin suite things. The cabins were, I mean, he was like, the cabin is falling into the ground.
Right. I mean,
you know?
It's a good example of what we see around here where, you know, this guy on this show, he had bought this cabin is rental 17 years ago. He bought it for like $1 million. Yeah.
Oh my God.
They were probably in good shape, but over 17 years, he basically just pumped it for cash.
And did nothing to
and
it.
He didn't do any work on the houses at all. And so when, the host, Anthony, comes in, there's this like mold. It's like you said, mold. The foundations are rotting.
Yeah.
I mean, there's like a septic tank that's like exposed.
Open. And
the owner wouldn't admit that that's what he did.
Right. So here's my theory about people like that. Like, a lot of people will say that their businesses dropped off when the economy crashed, but I think it has to do with a couple different things. There's a changing demographic of who's an adult now, and the demographic are, I hate this word, the millennials, and we find this all the time. And those are the people who look at online reviews. And Anthony says this all the time. Sure. It's not the baby boomers who are just the adults now, where they're like, sure, we'll stay at this junkie, whatever, it's no big deal. Right. They're no on, before, I mean, this is 10 years. This is only 10 years of internet, Yelp and TripAdvisor. Before that, there wasn't anything like that. So people could stay at these places and they might not stay there again, but they couldn't tell anyone not to go.
The only people that a customer could complain to is like the Better Business Bureau.
Yeah, right.
I don't really know how that even worked, but nowadays,
it's just Google has reviews on the Google map,
Yelp, Expedia, Travelocity,
TripAdvisor. Yeah. So I think there are owners like that are caught so off guard. And I will say this is like a total tangent here, but the property we just bought was the exact example of that. Right. This place, if Anthony Melchiori walked into that place when we bought it, he'd be like, this is an atrocity. Right. It's insane. It's disgusting. Like, actual, like, mouse droppings in the kitchen cabinets.
And these people were able to rent it because they rented it on their own website.
Yeah.
And again, like as we said, there would be no feedback.
There's no reviews.
People would come and stay there. I would assume would be disappointed, but they would have no way to actually
tell other people.
Except just not to show up.
Not to come back.
And these people were able to rent, I don't know how well they had rented it, but they were able to rent just because it is a beautiful
It's a beautiful area, yeah.
But again, they wouldn't be creating an actual good business, which is why I think it looks like it is. And these people did exactly like this guy on the show did. They bought it, probably rented it. It was probably nice at one point, and just over 15 years.
No maintenance was done.
Just things falling apart.
But I think the key is, and this is what Anthony says on the show all the time, we literally watch this show every night, so that's why we're like going on and on. But he's like, it's a different game now.
Right.
People are driving down the road looking for a hotel. They're going to look at the best reviewed with the best price.
Right.
And they're going to drive right by your, motel or whatever, because you have 1 star and everyone's like, this place is filthy,
I mean, we're like that.
I'm like that.
I mean,
I would not stay at a place.
When I'm looking, when we go to other places and we look on Airbnb, I always read what people say.
You're really good at that.
And just because it matters, because people are smart these days. I mean, other customers will say things like, it's okay, but it's like really far away from where I thought it was.
Right.
Or, it's okay, but really for the price I'm paying, the value isn't any good,
Or like there was a place we stayed at the very beginning of Airbnb, and you wrote in your review, look, this is a crash pad. It was in New York and it was really cheap. That was why we wanted it. But we're like, this guy's literally squatting in this apartment and renting it, meaning he does not own it. He's not leasing it. Right. He just has put a lock on the door.
I was like, it's location. We were in downtown.
It's in Alphabet City
for like $60 a night. That's a great deal, but be prepared to sleep on a mattress on the floor with like a noisy AC and
like it's filthy.
Yeah, so,
it was $90 a night, I remember.
Just be prepared.
But so that's why it's great, because there are probably like European travelers who are like, great, that's perfect, don't care,
So just to kind of wrap up this part of the conversation, I mean, I think for me, as we're doing a renovation, there's always 2 voices in me. Like, number one is like, we're going too slow, we're losing money, we're spending too much money, like, it doesn't make sense. But then on the other hand, I'm like, but if we invest now, we can charge more.
Yes.
And it will last longer. And when we're older, like, we'll still be proud of the work we do. And that's, I think, more important for me is the long term.
Yeah.
Because, we have no plan to get rid of these places.
Right.
Like, this is our retirement,
And I think that's why it's different than, like, real estate flippers or, like, long-term real estate rentals. Like, because I've lived in a house with long-term real estate rental. Like, that's what my dad does. And you're just like, they're not thinking of the long view, but that's what they should be doing,
And so let's talk about its numbers, because I feel so far I've been talking about my feelings. Yeah. And I feel like maybe you don't care about how I feel. Let's talk about numbers. So for instance, Valentine's Day is coming up.
Yes.
So we're going to book a 3-night Friday, Saturday, and a Sunday, and Valentine's.
Which is awesome.
A weekend for $750.
Yeah.
That's how much we're going to get paid.
Right.
Okay? For 3 nights.
3 nights out of the...
Where we live... People can rent an entire 3-bedroom house for $600 for
a month.
Right.
So that's why when people look at our house and they're like, "Why don't you just rent this for a whole year? You won't have to clean, whatever." I'm like, 3 nights, we're getting more. But we do the work, we put the money in, whatever. But
and people would not pay us $750 for those 3 nights if they didn't walk in or they didn't read its reviews that say this place is awesome. Like, I want to come and stay here because I love everything about it. And again, this isn't just to hype up my own ego. It's just, that's good business sense.
Right, exactly.
Like,
and I mean, the last couple of reviews we've gotten, you couldn't pay someone to give you a review like this. They said, this is the best Airbnb experience we've ever had. I think 2 or 3 people said that. But I'm saying that's where the work went into to get that review.
And then when people come and book, they could, and if they're like us, they're reading the different reviews, and it could be between our place and like another place, and the other place might be cheaper, but they're reading those reviews, and then they're reading ours, and they're like, we'll pay $100 more.
Because we want to make sure we have
awesome.
A great weekend.
I don't want the one where it's like, everything's okay, or, you know, it's pretty decent. I want the one that says, that's cool.
Come on. Like, that you would hope that if you work your ass off, then those are the kinds of reviews you get.
So bottom line, infrastructure is cool and sexy.
Infrastructure. Yes, and amenities.
Okay, so we'll wrap this up. It's one thing that you have down here.
Yeah, so I've been reading a little bit about this, about how Expedia actually recently, within the last couple of months, bought HomeAway /VRBO. There's like a suite of websites that are now owned by Expedia. And I'm just wondering, like, will it make a difference? Expedia is a huge company. Right. So does that mean, like, people are going to see our listings on Expedia? I don't know. Or, and what's funny is they put out a new TV ad, which is fine because I want them to advertise HomeAway. Yeah. But what's ridiculous about the ad, and I can link to it, is they talk about, like, the sharing economy. Like, they joke about the sharing economy, like Airbnb, and they're like, this is what a shared experience is like, and it's like horrible, and they're like,
it's like are renting a bedroom in someone's apartment.
Right, which you can do on Airbnb. But you can, and the only thing we've ever done on Airbnb is rent a whole house or whole apartment. We've never shared with anyone. Right. So it's just silly that they compare it like that, because you're like, you can rent whole houses.
Well, I think that is HomeAway's like their thing is like rent a home for its vacation, right? And that seems to be their target, its market.
And Airbnb is like more diverse.
Airbnb did start where, like, if you have an extra room and if you're in San Francisco, like,
you should rent it.
It let people
That's where the name comes from.
It's crashed there.
An air mattress.
Right. But those days are over now. Yeah. So, but it's good. I think it's great. I know it's for us. When we travel, we first think about renting our own place, an apartment or a house.
Right.
versus staying in a hotel.
Yes.
Because really the prices are often comparable, and we just know we'll get so much more value out of staying in a house than in a hotel.
Yeah. Especially because you can cook, you can do laundry if you need to, stuff like that. Like, that's what we love to do. So it makes it different.
Because I feel like the kind of quality we get when we stay in someone's apartment is as if you were staying in a $500 a night hotel. And we would never pay $500 a night for a hotel.
No.
Like, if we're paying $150 for a hotel, I mean, it could be just like a Super 8, if it's in an expensive area.
Right, exactly. So we do have a call-in number, and we would love to hear about questions or comments or talk about your own experience doing stuff. It's just a Google Voice number where you leave a voicemail, and the phone number is 540-407-8486, and we do have a phone call.
And we will never pick up. It's just a voicemail, and you only have 3 minutes before it cuts you off.
Hi, I have a suggestion. Why don't you tack a percentage of gratuity on your receipt, and that would pay for your cleaning? I heard you say you might start charging a cleaning fee, and I thought if you put it as a gratuity, like a lot of places, that would kind of hide the cost of it and maybe some of your taxes. It'd be like a 10 or 20%. So I just thought I'd add that in. I enjoy your podcast. Thank you so much. Bye.
So yeah, I mean that's an interesting idea, though. I don't know if you've ever dealt with any of the sites we deal with on Airbnb or VRBO. There's no way to add like a tip, or it's gratuity. That sounds more like a restaurant kind of thing. This is just you can either add a cleaning fee or not, or just add the cleaning fee into the price, and that's kind of what we've done.
So there's no like. The old school people will be like, here's your receipt, pay me with a check. Like, that's not what we're doing at all. Like, people are paying with their credit card directly to the third-party website.
Yeah. And so I think, to me, it's more of a psychological thing. Like, are people psychologically going to be angry if they have to pay an extra cleaning fee on top of their a rental like us? Or do people just think that that's just normal? I'm renting a house, so I expect to pay a cleaning fee afterwards.
So we'll see what happens, because we do have a cleaning fee now on one website.
All right, so that is it for this week, where we talk about our tribulations and adventures in running a rental business.
I'm sure we'll be talking about how we have to go shovel out the other rental in a couple of days, because we do have people coming on Thursday. So we got to bring the shovel over there, because there's definitely 2 feet of snow outside.
So we'd love to hear if anybody else has been buying property to fix up, to have exclusively to rent online. We'd love to hear your opinion, or how your experience, if you fix it up real quick, or if you had to do a lot of work on it. And how much money you can charge depending on how you fix it up. Because, again, our way isn't the only way. We're just doing it the way we see fit. Thanks for joining us today. You can go to shampooandbooze.com to either comment or click on any of the links that we talked about today.
You can subscribe on iTunes or YouTube or through your email. It's all on the sidebar of shampooandbooze.com.
Okay. See you later.
Bye.